Next up, we have Shivangi Katar on Soka education applied to the real world. Woo!
Considered walking, but I think I'm too nervous for that. Okay, so basically, my presentation is not exactly about my capstone, but really how I found this capstone, and kind of like a summation of like my experiences at Soka. And I want to share about my experiences of understanding this value creative spark that we're trying to talk about today. And I always go back to this quote, which I actually didn't read, so I'm going to read it out. For what purpose do we cultivate wisdom? May you always ask yourself this question. So I always happen to go back to this when I'm taking a class, or even when I was applying to Soka, and why did I want to cultivate wisdom, you know, and why did I want to study? So what in the world is Soka education? We all know that it was founded by Monkey Gucci, and we all know that it means the value-creating pedagogy of education, and it's applied in all our Soka sister and brother schools and all of that. But really, how would I take this education out into the real world after studying for 4 years at Soka? I mean, I know the classes are blowing my mind, and I know the professors are amazing. It's like something I've not experienced before, but I always ended up asking myself, how would I really take this into the real world? And what would I do with it? Would I just go back at night, or take a job, or what? So that basically is kind of what I wanted to talk about. At Soka, when I came in as a freshman, I kind of started with different kinds of clubs, trying to fit in my culture somewhere or the other, and dance and music and this and that. I wasn't satisfied, so sophomore year, a lot of my friends are here already, we went for an alternative spring break program, and we went to Detroit, Michigan, and yeah, and I think we learned a lot. We worked with a homeless shelter, and that kind of made me understand the purpose of my education in a sense, and how I was applying it in the real world, but I wasn't quite as satisfied, so I joined the Student Orientation Leader Program, where, again, please don't hear. And I think I learned a lot through that too, because we were kind of trying to help people to, get accustomed to the environment at Soka, and why was it different from other schools, and why did we choose it, and so on and so forth. But finally, I would always end up asking myself, Soka education in terms of my passion and why, how I would take it forward. So I joined Soka Education Student Research Project, and I think that was the turning point in my life. And and we study. We actually were able to read different kind of books by founders and by other educators. We organize a conference every year, and I think these kind of ideas floating around everywhere really helped me to understand that this is real. It's not just a word flying in the air. It's a real pedagogy, and So I think that is how I came up with my passion. And I don't have a lot of slides, but I'm just going to share with you how I came up with that. So I started thinking of what would I do when I get out of this bubble that we talk about constantly. And I had always been passionate about working for children with special needs. And I think it was really interesting because right when I was questioning myself about what is Soka and how, this idea of value creative education and how the classes were great and they're so different in the setup and stuff like that, I found this small center in New Delhi, India, where I live. And the way that it implemented education and care, therapeutic care for children with autism, was really similar to the way that Soka education is set up. And that kind of, was my catalyst to my capstone. And I think I learned a lot through all of the experiences at Soka, the student orientation leader, trying to understand what kind of a leader I wanted to become and things like that. And so that's how I came up with connecting those ideas to my passion. And I specifically started looking more into autism as a disorder as opposed to a lot of other kinds of disorders, and found that that's kind of what I wanted to specialize my focus on. And during my study abroad experience in Ecuador, I just interned with Ecuador. I went for this internship to the foundation where it basically was care for children with special needs. And through all these different experiences, I was able to understand. Like I don't think that if I hadn't been at SOCA, I would get to explore special needs education in 3 different countries, like here in California, in Ecuador, and in India. And through all these experiences, like I just started understanding that in every country the setup is different, but the point is the same. In order to be able to help children with such different problems, value creation was important, and looking after their one-on-one care was important. And so for me, that's where my capstone was born. And I started to look into the professional perspectives of autism in India through the specific care center. And I found this while working on my ideas, like I already said, and I was basically able to also present at the SOCA Education Conference, and I researched on a comparative analysis between SOCA Education and that center, and focused on my capstone more on the professional perspectives. The kind of therapies that they used, this kind of setup was really similar to even classes here, like the kind of focused attention we receive here, those students were able to. And in every other normal setup, special needs education really isn't a school setup. Mainstreaming is an important part of it, but at this center it was so different because the focus was helping one child, and in an individual setup and in group therapy too. What else? I think another thing that really inspired me was during my interviews when I talked to all the therapists in the center, they always mentioned that the point of the therapy and the point of the session at the end was to see their growth, and not the problem or the behavior, as they called it. So their focus was not on the problem of the child, but really on how they could help the child to grow. So I think that again really brought me back to the way I was, I was studying at SOCA and stuff like that. So over the course of that time, this ambiguous term of SOCA education really made some sense to me. And I think right now I'm at the stage where I'm asking myself, how would I implement this in the real world? And the most important thing for me is, I still remember during a meeting when all the students were talking about what SOCA education is, someone said, even if you start like a flower shop after SOCA, you're going to be a global citizen, because you're going to be doing something at that place where you are at, you're going to be creating value, and if you're happy and the people around you are, then that's SOCA education, And I think for me, like, that really made a lot of sense. I don't have to start an organization of my own. I don't have to go into the Ministry of Indian Education or something like that. I just wanted to be able to take this kind of positive attitude and this kind of an educational setup, which actually already exists in some parts of India, like my capstone taught me, further to India, because pessimism exists everywhere, and that's why, like, for me, this education was so important. And I guess what I wanted to say was that now I can graduate peacefully because I know what I'm going to do with the education. So yeah, if you guys want to talk more about my capstone, we can talk later, but yeah, that's what I wanted to say.